So in the last video, we discussed how to create a tensor of constants. So this is a constant. This is how you create a tensor of constant tf dot constant, and you get a tensor. What is the meaning of constant then? So let's see here. The meaning of constant is if I want to change these contents. So this is the tensor which we got. This is the tensor which we got. This one, starting from here to here, right? Now inside this tensor, it's a 5-dimensional tensor. So if I want to change the contents, some contents like this, if I want to change this 3 value to, let's say, 12, right? So if I want to change this value to 12, I cannot do that because this is the tensor of constants. I'm sorry. So the contents of the tensor cannot be cannot be changed or cannot be modified, right? It's immutable. It's immutable. Then how can I have a tensor where I can modify or mutate or change the contents, right? So that is by using the or creating the tensor of the variables, right? So let's see how to create the tensor of variables. So by using tensor of variables, I can or the tensor which is variable, we can change the contents of that tensor. So let's see how to create the tensor. So let's say here T7 is equal to tf dot variable. This is a method variable. Tf dot variable is a method. To this method, I'll again pass the array from which I want to create a tensor. Let's say I want to create a tensor of 1 comma 2, right? So that's the tensor. So this T7 is a variable. T8 is let's say tf dot constant. It's a constant. It's, let's say, 3 comma 4, right? And now if I print T7 and T8, so you see you got this T7 as a variable and this T8 as, it's a constant, right? It's a constant. So now let's try to change the contents of constant first, if we are able to do that, or variable first. Right? So how can I access the contents now? Here in this tensor, this 1 comma 2, I just redraw it here. Just right. So if I draw 1 comma 2, so this is location 0 inside the tensor. What is the name of this tensor? Name of this tensor is T7. So this is location 0, this is location 1. If I want to access this, right, this, I should say T7 of 0, right? T7 of 0 will give access to this, right? And this T7 of 1 will give access to this location inside this tensor. Okay. Now having said this, let's see how to modify the contents, right? So here if I say T7 of T7 T of 7, so T7 of 0, T7 of 0, let's say, right, is equal to, let's say, I want to set this 0th location of T7 to 10. So let's say whether, and then let's try to print this. So we got an error, right? So because the idea is this is not, there is no, this is not getting supported, right? So what I need to do, right? Resource variable object does not support item assignment, right? So this item assignment is not supported inside this this object, which is T7, right? So let's see how to do that. There is a method called as assign, right? So I'll have to use that method T7 of 0 dot assign, and what value I want to assign? I want to assign, let's say, 10, and then I'll print T7. Yeah, now you see the array is changed here. You see, the contents are modified. So this T7's which was earlier 1, it's now 10, right? So that is how you can modify the contents of a variable tensor. Now how can I modify the let's see whether we are able to modify the contents of the constant tensor, right? So let's say we have T8 is our constant. So T8 of let's say 1 is equal dot assign. Let's say we will set 5 there, right? And we'll print T8. So you see, you got an error saying that object has no attribute assigned, right? You see this error, object has no attribute assigned, right? That means constant tensor cannot be modified. So that is how we can create a variable tensor whose contents we can modify, or the variable tensor is mutable tensor, whereas constant tensor is immutable.